April 17th, 2018.
Oh, that's what you
For
said.
those that have not had the pleasure of attending a meeting before, just a few housekeeping items. First of all, if you could silence your cell phones, we'd greatly appreciate that. Second of all, the way things work through the agenda is, after we're done calling the roll and approving the minutes, city staff presents on an item. Then it's open just to the commission for technical questions. Once we're done with technical questions, we open the floor for public commentary. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to make them. If you would step up to the microphone and state your name and address so we have it for the minutes, we'd greatly appreciate that. Once everybody who has desired to speak has done so, then we go back to the commission for further discussion and a vote, and then we move on to the next item. With that, let's call the roll.
Kathleen Propp,
Present.
David Borsick, Ed Bowen,
Here.
Steve Cummings, Michael Ford, John Hintz,
Here.
John Kiefer, Robert Weigert, Thomas Perry,
Here.
Andrew Mott,
Here.
Thomas Wojtek.
Here. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from the April 3rd meeting. Do we have any additions, corrections, deletions to those minutes?
Move approval. Second? Is that what we were waiting for?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, moving on to item number one.
Seconding it.
Extraterritorial two-lot land division certified survey map at 5143 West Ripple Avenue in the town of Utica.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome, sir.
The petitioner is requesting a two-lot land division. The subject site is a 19.56 acre parcel located on the south side of West Ripple Avenue in the town of Utica, about 1.7 miles southwest of Oshkosh city limits. The site is currently being used for residential and agricultural purposes, and the surrounding area consists of predominantly agricultural uses along with sporadic single-family uses. The purpose for the land division is to separate the existing home and outbuildings on the north side of the site from the agricultural land on the south side of the site. This land division will be consistent with the city's 10 and 20-year comprehensive plan land use recommendations. Lot 2 does not have public street frontage, so the CSM does include a note that Lot 2 is not buildable and may only be sold to an adjoining landowner until public street frontage is provided. And here's the CSM. And staff recommends approval of the two-lot extraterritorial land division as proposed.
All right, technical questions. Seeing none, anyone here from the audience to speak to this item today? Going once, twice? Okay. Public commentary is closed. Back to the commission.
Move to approve. Second.
Been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Ford,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Propp,
Aye.
Bowen,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
On to item number 2, residential design standards variance to allow replacement of a door opening with a smaller window opening on the front facade at 1234 Mount Vernon Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for item 2, the petitioner is requesting a design standards variance to allow size reduction of an opening. So basically a door opening was eliminated on a front facade of this property and replaced with a smaller window. Here's the subject site. So if we take a look here in blue, obviously, that's the property that we're looking at. East Tennessee Avenue is the street running east-west, and that is the street that the facade is located along. And Mount Vernon runs north-south. There are some multifamily properties up here, also mixed use, and then mostly single-family properties that are zoned to flat residential, TR10. So a little bit of the backstory for this one. On July 27th, 2017, I believe, Planning Services staff was performing proactive inspections up there and noticed that a door opening had been closed off without a permit and without a design standards variance. So staff followed up with the applicant and informed the applicant that, or the property owner, I should say, that a variance and a permit would be required to close off the door opening in question. On March 7th of this year, so a period of months later, the applicant applied for a design standards variance. Here are some images that I took when I was up there, looking at the subject property. So I'm along Tennessee Avenue here, and I am looking towards the facade here. This is the work that was done. You can kind of see there was a door there, and I believe the door opening, I'm not sure what the size was. I imagine it was a standard door, maybe 32 or 36 inches wide by 80 inches tall. I am not sure the size of the window. There are some gaps in my knowledge, but I did try following up with the applicant on this. I know that they tried to match the siding, as you can see. So the lap size of the siding is pretty similar to what is currently there. There was what appears to be J-channels installed around the perimeter of the opening, and the siding looks to have been installed within those channels. And then there was some work done, I think I have some closer images showing. It looks more like patchwork above the window and then along the sides of the window there. And if you look really closely, it's hard to see here, but when I was looking at the photographs, it looked like some of that was screwed or bolted on each side of the window there. And then above the window, it looks like some kind of panel or some kind of smaller lap siding or something. And then you can see the window that was installed in place of the door. That J-channel is relatively pronounced around the side there, around the perimeter. And then this sidewalk that used to exist here walking up to, or leading up to the door, was removed and is currently in this condition here. So you can kind of get a sense of what was done. The inside shot here, it was a stairwell, and so that was what the applicant, part of the rationale that the applicant stated in this, and I put in the staff report, as to why they closed off the door. They said that it was like a 70-year-old door, and it was in a poor location on the facade, so they weren't using it much, and they closed it off, put the window in there. I did a couple of quick drawings here showing what the house looked like before. So showing the door that was there, and then what it looks like currently with the J-channels and the smaller window. You can kind of see this window's got more of a vertical orientation than perhaps the double hung with the horizontal rail across for the other windows on the facade. The perimeter treatment is obviously very different than it is for some of these windows. And staff felt that currently this work had a detrimental impact on the architectural integrity of the facade. So there's a number of reasons. Obviously the J-channel, it's not seamless in appearance. And then some of the patchwork stuff that was done above the window head and on the sides of the window. The window is not in an optimal location, but that's due to the stairwell that it's located within. So that's what I would say is due to the layout of the house. But what I was proposing was a compromise. You can kind of see what they've done, what it used to look like. We're proposing that if they keep their window, the smaller window that's there, that they treat the perimeter of that window similar to how some of these other windows are treated here. Trying to make the siding more seamless. It may not be possible to make it perfect, but if they can do something to eliminate that J-channel and minimize the appearance of that seam from the street, but then also doing some kind of similar perimeter treatment to the other windows on the facade of the house. And then also another thing would be reseeding as grass the area where they removed the walk leading up to that previous door opening. So going into the conditions, we would recommend approval of a variance conditionally, provided they match the window trim, match the color and appearance of the existing windows on the home. The completed work should be revised or shall be revised so that the perimeter of this window maintains the same appearance as the perimeter of existing windows on the same facade. The siding to match the existing siding below the new window, which it does appear to, but then also around the sides and head of the new window as needed. Any seams between the new and existing siding shall be installed in a manner that minimizes the appearance of a single straight vertical seam from the public right-of-way, whether this is staggering or some other method. The window and siding work to be completed within 6 months of design standard variance approval. And the area where the previous concrete walk was removed should be reseeded and restored as grass within 6 months.
All right, that it?
Yep.
Okay, technical questions. All right, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Nobody, back to the commission. Thoughts? Go ahead, Kath.
I expected somebody would be here to talk to this, so I'm surprised. But, I think I see why they eliminated the door. So when we called it a front facade, well, the real front of the house is on
Mount Vernon.
Vernon.
Yep.
So it's a technicality. This front's on this street, but
Mhm.
it's not the quote front of the house. So I like your conditions, and I would like to approve. But it's too bad that nobody is here.
Other thoughts?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? The only observation I would make is, ultimately, I think what happens on the inside of the house is more important than what happens on the outside of the house, because you live on the inside of the house, and the door there did not make much sense. The way this house worked. But I agree with the conditions, I agree with you. Any other comments? All right, call the roll, please.
Ford,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Carey,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye?
Bowen,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Item number 3, zone change from institutional district to single-family residential, SR9 district for property located at 422 Monroe Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The petitioner is requesting a zone change from institutional to SR9, single-family residential 9 district. The subject parcel is a vacant parcel that was previously used as a playground for St. Mary's School, which is now closed. The surrounding area consists mostly of single and two-family uses with sporadic multifamily uses and a church to the north. Here's the subject site. It is zoned institutional, as well as the church property to the north is also zoned institutional, and the petitioner owns the vacant residential parcel to the south, and that is zoned SR9. The petitioner would like to combine the subject parcel with his residentially zoned parcel to the south, and that will require them to have consistent residential zoning, and they would then like to build a single-family home on the newly created lot. There are no plans yet for the new home. The proposed zone change will be consistent with the surrounding zoning, which will be SR9, and it'll also be consistent with the surrounding residential land uses. The 10 and 20-year land use recommendations designate the property as institutional. However, the adjoining parcels to the south and to the east are both slated for residential use. The comprehensive land use map recommendations are meant more as a general representation of land use patterns and are not intended to be parcel specific. So staff does not have concerns with extending the zoning to maintain consistency with the adjacent land uses. And staff recommends approval of the zone change from institutional district to single-family residential 9 district as requested.
All right, thank you, sir. Any technical questions? Go ahead, Kathy.
St. Mary's would retain ownership of that parcel that's outlined in yellow on the top.
To the north?
To the north?
Yep, they still own that vacant lot right here.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Other technical questions? Seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Come on up, sir, if you could step up, microphone, state your name and address, and tell us what you think.
Okay, I assume this is on.
It is.
Okay, I'm Gerald Jacklin. I live at 408 Monroe Street, and this is my wife Cheryl Jacklin. I'm just gonna mention a few benefits in my mind for doing this, and there's obviously the benefits for us too. I'll just kind of read this through quick. Okay, I request the zoning change. Improvement, this will be, in my mind, an improvement to the church environment. We'll have a nice fence there. We'll have landscaping, big on trees. beneficial to city. This is very near to the new Washington Street upgrade with the YMCA, the Howard Building, and so forth. Also a tax benefit to the city. We purchased the 414 lot, the one next to it. There was a house there in a state of disrepair last year about this time. We had that bulldozed down, and now we already have that lot looking nice with a slight garden and so forth, and trees. We spruce those up. So our goal is to have a single-family home, but also to make that area kind of nice because the church is right there, and people from all over town and so forth come there. And she'll say a few words now. Cheryl Jacklin.
Right, thank you.
Hi. Well, it all came about kind of fast because the property next to us, we're at 408 Monroe Street, was in terrible disarray rental property, just going downhill. And then the owner decided to sell it about a year ago. So we bought it, tore that down, which helped the whole neighborhood there, and then put in a garden and landscaped and a partial fence. Then we found out about that time the church, took down the playground. They weren't going to have it anymore because the children were moving over to St. Vincent's and all that. So we contacted the church a year ago that we were interested in this property because by itself, the first lots are only like 50 feet, 51. It's kind of hard to build a house. Well, on the east side, they're all too narrow together. So we thought, and we worked with the church and they approved it. We haven't purchased it. It depends upon the zoning. But we plan to go with the house according to the neighborhood. We're not going to put something out there. We want it to flush, and we're going for a single-family home because ours is a story and a half, laundry in the basement, upstairs, downstairs, and our retirement here, we need to make it convenient, especially for me, to live in a modern, newer house where it's all on one level. So we're hoping you would consider this. And we have a partial fence. We're planning on on the new property, fencing that off with the same type of fence that we have up on the other lot we purchased, continuing that.
Right, thank you.
So in the landscaping, we're real big into that. And,
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
okay.
Okay. Should we kind of go back to our seats or stay up here?
Unless people have questions for him,
No questions?
go right ahead.
We're good.
Anyone else here to speak to this item today? Seeing none, back to the commission.
Move approval?
Second.
Any discussion? Good luck. I really appreciate it. It's nice when people take an established neighborhood and try to make something better.
Thank you.
All right, let's call a roll.
Ford,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Bott,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Bowen,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Item number 4, General Development Plan Amendment and Specific Implementation Plan Approval for property located at 1819 Witzel Avenue. Oh, no worries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We got all day.
All day. Wow.
Okay.
Okay. So this parcel was originally part of a plan development that was approved back in 1998. Here we kind of have the general land use map for the area. It's in a largely commercial corridor along the 41 Witzel and Kohler Street intersections. Here we have the aerial of the site. It's a multi-tenant commercial building that really functions as part of a larger commercial complex. This development previously was approved with a shared parking agreement between its lot and the lot to the south. It has common ownership. So like I said, it's really functioning as a single commercial development, even though it is multiple parcels. So the applicant has approached us. The rightmost tenant space within the building is being remodeled for a daycare facility. Daycares are a permitted use within the SMU district, so in and of itself, it's an allowed use. However, as part of that, the applicant is proposing to do an outdoor play area for the kids occupying that daycare. And when we took a look at the site, we noticed a couple of things. So the first thing was where you see this dumpster area was originally supposed to be an additional parking lot. That was part of the original approval that was never constructed. In conjunction with that, the new outdoor play area as proposed is eliminating approximately 5 more spaces of parking. When we factored those two things in together, the determination was made that they needed to amend their plan development previous approval to reflect the current site conditions. So they're looking at about an 1,150 square foot outdoor play area surrounded by a 5-foot metal fence. Like I said, 34 parking spaces were originally shown on the previous approval. However, only 18 of those 34 were constructed, and we're losing approximately 5. Staff does not have a lot of concern with the reduction in parking and lack of the construction of the initial parking lot. The facility to the south that they have the shared parking and access agreement with is well over serving the needs of that area in terms of amount of parking spaces provided. The fact that a parking for a daycare is a very kind of temporary transient parking. It's very quick in and out movements. So that really the minimal parking provided on this specific lot is not of a concern to the city. Applicant did provide some elevations for signage. This is the fence. It's just kind of a nice 5-foot metal fence that would surround that outdoor play area to enclose the area. The signage, they are intending to meet the signage standards. Between the existing signage for the other tenant space and the area that's remaining within the code, they should have no issues meeting those standards. No additional landscaping is proposed at this time, as there are very minimal site changes proposed. Again, no real impact on stormwater. However, they have been in contact with the Department of Public Works on what they're doing here. That area is kind of going from an asphalt to that rubberized play surface. So not a huge change there. And again, the only changes to the building elevations are very minor. They're essentially adding in 2 doors so the kids can get out to that outdoor play area. That being said, staff is recommending approval of the specific implementation plan and the amendment to the general development plan, with the only condition that signage meet the underlying zoning district. And at this time, the applicant has kind of intended that they will meet those standards.
Thank you, sir. Technical question? Seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item? Once? Twice? 3 times. Back to the commission.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Ford.
Aye.
Hintz.
Aye.
Perry.
Aye.
Mott.
Aye.
Crop.
Aye.
Bowen.
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
On to item number 5, General Development Plan Amendment and Specific Implementation Plan Approval for a Daycare and Parking and Storage Facility at 223 East Nevada Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's the meeting of daycares, apparently.
Yes.
So the old
Someone's
Wait-
having kids.
The old Weight Grass Carpet Company previously had come to you for approval of a plan development in 2016. In 2016, that was kind of phase 1 of their development that included a residential portion of the building. They were intending to construct approximately 56 residential units, and that work is still ongoing. The applicant is now kind of prepared to start working on phase 2 of that development. So this is the general area. It is urban mixed-use zoning. It's kind of situated in kind of sandwiched between some residential uses to the west and south, and then largely industrial users to the north and the east. As you look at these buildings, this is the southern building, kind of called out as phase 1, where the residential development was taking place. Now we're really looking at kind of this northern portion of the site where some additional changes are taking place. As part of that original approval, the developer had shown kind of a interior parking lot garage on the northeast side of the building. That approval was part of phase 1 approval process. Now they're just intending to start construction of that. Some additional site improvements will be taking place for surface parking. The site plan has not changed from their original phase 1 approval. They're just going to be beginning that work now as part of this phase. So in a large portion, their site development has very minimal changes from what you originally had approved. So here's an aerial of the building, just kind of showing we do have kind of 2 separate structures. And then here's the latest site plan. Again, these parking areas as shown, so this is the parking area for the newer daycare facility. This parking lot is mainly identical to the parking that was shown in phase 1, so not really a lot of change there. I will note one change that has kind of taken place on the site is there was previously a residential home on this lot on the corner. The applicant has purchased that lot, will be removing the home and actually using this lot for storage of some of the fill dirt that's being removed as part of this project. And the applicant kind of expand on that a little bit as well. So a couple of things going on with this. As a part of this development, the parking garage is being constructed. That parking garage includes some basically self-storage units. They're intended to be used by the applicants of the Waite Rug residential portion. The applicant is requesting a base standard modification to be allowed to rent those storage units to third parties should they not be fully occupied or needed by the residents. They just hate to build out those units, only maybe third or half of their residents decide they want one. Now they have a couple of extra storage units. They'd like a little bit of flexibility that should they not be fully occupied and used by those residents, they could rent them out to third parties. So they are requesting a base standard modification to allow the storage units. Staff does support that. It makes sense to give them the flexibility. The Housing Authority is kind of helping with this project and managing it. So we fully expect that they will serve their tenants first and foremost, and then overflow would be addressed accordingly. The daycare facility is planned to be in the have an interior, is kind of in that northwest corner of the building. It's intended to be essentially a 2-shift daycare. So it would service individuals all the way from 5 a.m. till approximately 11 p.m. So your second shift type employees would also have a daycare in the local area to help handle their needs. From what we've been able to find, we do not have a product in the community that handles daycare for those individuals. At maximum occupancy, the daycare could accommodate approximately 210 children and utilizing approximately 25 employees. However, they're expecting to start at a much smaller scale with maybe 50 to 60 children and maybe 8 or so employees, and then ramp up as the demand is there. They do need a base standard modification for their outdoor play area. Kind of the unique way the site lays out. Along this western portion of the building, the applicant is intending to put in kind of an indoor-outdoor play space. So a portion of the play space would be within the building, large, kind of gymnasium type area, and then have large garage doors on the outside that led to an outdoor play area. That outdoor play area technically would extend closer to the street than their building, and therefore be a front yard and have a maximum fence requirement of 4 feet. The applicant is requesting a base standard modification go to a 6-foot tall fence to enclose their play area. Staff is in support of that. They're about 130 feet from the actual street, so they're set back a pretty good distance. And there's going to be some berming done with some of the excess soil in the area. So you're really going to be mitigating the view of that, and you're not really going to notice the fact that it's a 6-foot fence within technically what is required as a front yard. Again, very minor other site changes are proposed outside of Carissa. They will kind of be using some of the previously adjacent residential lot for some soil storage. There are no current plans to change the previously approved parking requirement, except they will need a base standard modification. When the original site plan was done, the end user of this site was not known. Now that we have a use, we've been able to run a parking calc, and they are a little short. However, they're requesting that they be allowed to permit 33 spaces for this use. That would include 23 spaces in the immediately lot in front of the daycare, as well as 10 spaces in this lot to the east that would be utilized mainly as staff parking. Staff does support the request for the base standard modification. In this instance, we have some adjacent streets that are largely industrial in nature and have little to no parking traffic. Should the need arise that they need a little bit of overflow parking, parking is going to be available for that very transient short term on the street. And kind of as we discussed in the last application, the parking demand for these type of uses is a very rapid turnover. So you're not going to have people parking there for long periods of time taking up those spaces. And the way daycares are generally, spread out over the amount of time that those kids are dropped off. It's not like a school where you have kind of a designated drop-off pickup time. So staff does support that base standard modification. Go forward here. They have provided some renderings of signage for the development. They're proposing a freestanding modification sign near the corner of the site, 5 feet in height, 11 feet in size, well within the code requirements. They're then also proposing a wall sign on the building. That sign comes in at about 80 square feet and does fall within the code requirements for the UMU district. Final signage plans will be reviewed and approved as part of the final site plan review process. Again, no significant changes to their landscaping or stormwater management plan outside of some minor grading changes that'll have to get approved through the Department of Public Works at final site plan review. Staff does recommend approval, subject to a couple of conditions. First, a base standard modification to provide 33 parking spaces for the daycare facility as they indicated on their site plan. So that's 23 immediately in front of the building and then 10 staff spaces in the eastern portion of the lot. A base standard modification will allow for the rental storage units to non-tenants within the Waite Road Place development, and a base standard modification to permit the 6-foot fence within a front yard.
Thank you, sir. Technical questions? Ed? Patty?
On-street parking is allowed on Nevada?
Yes, Nevada does allow on-street parking.
I don't think I've ever had any reason to park on Nevada. I did not know that, so good to know. Cool.
Kathy?
So when this is completed, this whole development will be improved. There will be no unimproved. The parking garage area will
Correct, the
Be
parking
improved.
garage slash storage
slash
unit
the
area will
storage
be
unit
built out,
area.
and the daycare facility will occupy the remainder of the building, and it'll be fully built out.
Okay, it'll be an incredible improvement.
It will.
Incredible. But when they were here last time, there's the basically looks like a demo project on the west side. It's open. The building is open to the west side. Is that going to be finished off?
Yeah, so they're not even finished with the residential build-out
No,
portion
that
of
I
the
know.
building.
I'm talking about
You're
the.
talking about stuff
You're
that's
talking
up-
about the
up in here
daycare.
and here
Yes,
and there.
yep. So they're actually going to be remodeling almost that entire building. And I know the applicant's here, so we can probably address a little
Okay,
more
good.
specifics. But that very western portion of the building is where I discussed the gym slash outdoor space is being created. So it will be finished off. Like I said, they're adding some garage doors and stuff to that side of the building. So the kids have both an indoor and an outdoor play area.
Oh, okay. So it's that area, that section of the building where the daycare will be located.
Yes.
And I'm asking this now, so if the applicant is here, then he can refer to it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other technical questions? Okay, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Come on up, sir.
Paul Jansen, 1734 River Mill Road. I also own the property on the north side of Nevada, and I'm questioning your judgment as to the amount of parking spaces. It looks to me like, from what you've said, and you've been dwelling on it through the whole speech, and that is, where are they going to park all these cars? Obviously, there's going to be people coming all the time, and what I question is, I own the property on the north side of Nevada, all the way up to the Georgia Pacific operation and back to the railroad tracks. I bring in numerous semis all day long. When they were repairing that building a year or 2 years ago, when something happened to it or when they tore part of it down, people were parking on Nevada for that, and there's no way I can get semis into my operation because the street is narrow as it is. Now, if you're going to allow parking, permanent parking, which obviously you're talking about doing on Nevada, what does that do for my location? I have a gate that's just west of the railroad tracks, and it would be obviously contingent to the, it's east of the mini warehouse. I'm in the Universal Motors building. I don't know if that shows or not. It's a large building.
That's further
To
than
the
north.
east.
Further to the east,
Further to the east.
No, it would be directly north.
north, this building here.
The mini warehouse is also in that area.
It's off the map,
Okay.
further north.
Again, the only thing I question is ability to get a semi in continually. Yes, ma'am.
Does the semi go in what looks like a driveway east of 310 there?
Over here.
The semi would be coming in on Harrison, turning east on Nevada, and turning north into my facility.
Right where
This one right
the,
here?
right there?
Yes, correct. Grand Avenue literally dead ends into my driveway.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The parking.
So, I mean, when staff evaluated this, right now Nevada would allow that same parking today. If people wanted to park on the street, parking is permitted. It is our opinion that the daycare facility is not really going to add any type of permanent parking to the street.
I would imagine it'll add a considerable amount of traffic, probably.
It's going to add a lot of temporary traffic of people coming in to drop and pick up their children.
I'm amazed at the hours of operation of the place you're talking about. There must be a lot of shift people work and leave their children off there, if that's the case.
Yeah, I think that's, the applicant can speak to that a little bit, but it's a unique facility for this area that we don't have.
I mean, that appears to be a standard 60-foot city right-of-way up there, doesn't it? I mean, that looks like it's, what?
Nevada was just repaved too, so I well know because I paid for it.
For Steve. Steve, is that about a 60-foot right-of-way, you think?
I don't recall from when it was reconstructed in 2006 if it was a full 60 or not. Judging by the terrace sizes, it may not be.
But right now, it does allow parking. I mean, on at least one of the sides, right?
When we looked at it, there was no parking restrictions on it.
It just doesn't appear to get used much.
Yeah.
Okay,
Once you're
anything
cutting
else, sir?
through.
Pardon? Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else here to speak to this item today?
Good afternoon. I'm Matt Wiedenhoft. I'm an architect with Martin Riley Architects and Engineers, and we are the architects of record for the project. You've heard most of what our modifications are basically already. Basically on the west side, and actually point. I believe this is the building that you were talking about right along here that currently has no wall to it.
Right.
That is where we are planning on putting the overhead doors, fencing out this area here, so that it can be one large play area when those doors are open, but can still provide play both at night and on inclement days. With regard to parking, yes, I've never seen actually a car parked on that street. I'm sure that it probably did happen when they were rebuilding something. But with regard to the number of parking spaces in the lot, the front lot will be available to those picking up and dropping off. And we've made a space directly in front of the doors long enough to get a bus or larger vehicle like that in there should there be a need. For a larger vehicle to pick up or drop off, although we don't anticipate that at this time. With regard to any other parking along the street, we're not actually asking for any change in the street parking. Currently, you can't overnight park there, but you're free to park on both sides of the street currently. With respect to the rest of the lot, it really, most of what we're doing came to you before. The major change is that we now know that the western portion is going to be a daycare, and we've asked for the three base modifications that you've seen. Is there anything I didn't answer that?
Any questions? Kathy and then Tom?
If you are intending some spaces in the eastern lot for daycare, if you need it, although I'm wondering if you would, frankly, is there a sidewalk or?
Yes, there's a
way to
back
get-
door. There's a back door into the building that the staff would use to go from their parking spaces into the back of the building.
Okay,
Basically,
but
if you were parking in one of the-
clients wouldn't use it.
if you were parking in one
That's
of
not
these
intended.
10 spots, you would go into this into this door, into this door right there. No, clients are going to be served from here. This is the main entry, and when you enter, there's a security point here, and you would have to either know the security code or be buzzed in order to get your child.
Okay, so you're anticipating that if there's overflow parking needed, it would probably be staff. And staff could easily park in that eastern lot. Is that what you're saying?
No, I guess what I was saying was that we have, that staff would most likely park in the eastern lot, correct?
Okay.
But that if, for some reason, you had more than 23 people there to pick up their child all at once, which we, I guess, don't foresee, at least not in the near future.
Okay.
There is also street parking available, and they could park on the street for the time that it takes to get them in, get their child.
Okay, thank you.
Thomas?
So is there 2 new curb cuts on Nevada to facilitate that parking lot?
Yeah, this parking lot is the same as the original plan development parking lot.
But there would be 2 new curb cuts because it's not there yet.
Yes, I think if we.
But we're eliminating the other one that is there.
So the curb cuts actually eliminate some of the parking that would be available on Nevada. The entry and exit of the parking lot.
One curb cut is a replacement of a slightly wider curb cut. So, yeah, you probably have one less car that could park on Nevada.
Yeah, so there was previously kind of a large curb cut here.
Okay.
That's kind of being modified to a more traditional commercial style curb cut.
We're eliminating that one and putting in the other 2.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak to this item today? Okay, back to the commission. Ed?
I'm just gonna say from experience, I wish my daycare had 21 parking stalls. The turnover is pretty rapid. I gotta be there in like 45 minutes, so I think this is a fantastic use for this. I think the parking is not a concern for me, frankly, just from a practical standpoint. So hats off to the Housing Authority for this being the final piece of this puzzle, because this is a really great use for the area, a really great sort of use for the community, and I think this is a really exciting completion to the project. So good for, I don't know where the housing, good for you guys.
Yes, agreed.
Other thoughts? I would also add the second shift piece, I'm guessing, is going to be a huge benefit
Oh, yes.
to some very needy parents.
This checks a lot of boxes in our comp plan.
It does. All right, do we have a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Being none, call a roll.
Ford.
Aye.
Hintz.
Aye.
Perry.
Aye.
Mott.
Aye.
Crop.
Aye.
Bowen.
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, on to item number 6, approve building elevations for Verve at the 1000 block of North Washburn
'cause I
Street.
did 'em.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so at the August 8th, 2017 meeting of the Plan Commission, they approved a specific implementation plan for a plan development over on the west side of town. As part of that plan development approval, kind of final decisions on the building elevation for one of the 3 proposed buildings was not finalized. Plan Commission at that time put a condition on the site that as those elevations were finalized, they come back for approval. So here's the site in question. It's kind of that northeast corner out in front of kind of the Lowe's PetSmart development. There is already one building under, have you guys started construction? Under construction out there for the multi-tenant center. And now they're getting ready to move forward with the Verve building. This was kind of the building that was at the northwest corner of the property. The final building elevations were not finished for. So kind of we have a couple of things for you here. Applicant has kind of provided some pictures showing the materials that are intended to be used. This is obviously a different site, but it gives you an idea of the materials intended to be used on this site. So here we have the west and east elevations. Kind of the bottom elevation would be your main entrance into the facility. West elevation is that elevation that has the drive-through going through it. These are the drive-through canopies. So that is that elevation. Then we have the north and south elevation. So this is the north elevation that would face out to North Washburn. And then we have the south elevation that really kind of faces interior of the site. So looking at the exterior design requirements for commercial buildings, the applicant is required to meet 50% Class 1 materials on all street or front-facing facades. Presently, the applicant is looking at about 76% along the north, 55 along the east, and 53 along the west. So they would be in compliance with the design standards for commercial structures. With that being said, based on the decisions the applicant has made with materials and how they're laying out the building, the staff does obviously support the elevations as proposed. Here are kind of some more renderings of the building. And staff does recommend approval.
All right, technical questions from the commission. Ed? No?
Technical comment. These are the materials. Essentially, it's the identical materials used for Murdoch. So if you have any questions on materials, you can refer to that.
Got it. Other technical questions? Kathy?
The roof line seems extra modern, shall we say. The elevation from the north looks probably similar to the Murdoch one, and from the south, but the roof line kind of in the middle there is, from this angle, from that angle of the drawing. Looks a little, maybe I'll say strange.
You're talking about this north elevation here?
Yeah, no, that looks fine. I mean, that looks normal. What's the right word? It's that elevation. It looks like a ski jump. The roof line.
Roof
Those
line, so the
Okay.
bottom photo
Slopes.
slopes out.
And dips and slopes, and I'm just saying that I presume that elevation met code.
Yeah, that elevation as proposed does meet the code requirements.
Certainly a varied roof line.
Is it interesting? Yeah. That's all I have.
All right, other technical questions? Okay, seeing none, anyone here from the audience to speak to this item today? Nobody, back to the commission.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any discussion on the
We
motion?
have time.
Seeing none, call the roll.
Ford,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Carey,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Bowen,
Present?
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 6-0-1.
All right, we have a workshop coming up. Do we have any other business before we adjourn the,
I have business.
all right, then talk to us. That's good.
We sent out a revised planning director's report. Update you on a couple things going on. The state trunk Highway 91 and 44 land use that we spent a lot of time working on over the last year or so. That was approved by council a meeting or two ago, and that was a unanimous vote to adopt proposal number 1, which took that land use all the way out to global extended. So that got approved. I've been talking with the developer who's been interested in that parcel that we all know about that triggered it. I told them that I want to have a workshop on May 1st, just a workshop, because what I want to get out of the Plan Commission in that workshop is there's concerns raised about putting residential out in that particular area. I want to talk about some of the specific concerns that the Plan Commission may have that we can modify potentially with the site plan. It's not been attached to the city yet. They want to attach it to the city. I said prior to us even moving in that direction, I want to have a workshop with the Plan Commission to discuss concerns. Center City's corridor plan. If you couldn't make the April 9th meeting, that's too bad. We had a pretty good, John Houseel was here to discuss that corridors plan and did a really good presentation. We had representation from the Plan Commission, Traffic Review Board, Parks Advisory Board, Head and Bike, and the council. So we did have a lot of representation at that meeting. I plan on bringing that and putting it on the May 1st agenda for approval. I won't be able to do do justice what John did from a presentation standpoint, so we'll do our best job. But it was a good meeting, and we did get a lot of good positive comment at that meeting. Sawdust District. We started the planning process for the Sawdust District, and we're going to be working on that over the next 8 months or so. And we started right now. So Sawdust District, as you know, comes out of the Imagine Oshkosh plan. It's an implementation item out of the Imagine Oshkosh plan. And we've been meeting with an advisory group. We've had 2 meetings, and we'll send you a link. We actually created a website or a web page to keep everybody informed. You're going to get informed along the line because we're going to have periodic workshops on the plan itself, but we actually created a web page on our website that's going to have the meeting recaps on it, pictures, PowerPoint presentations, the materials that we're using to work with the group. We're going to put that on the website so everybody can see it. So one of our first exercises was to look at what are the boundaries of the Sawdust District. And we had 3 different groups, and we had great conversation. Where should the Sawdust District be? And these lines represent, kind of some of the work that came out of that group. Well, what we're recommending right now is that we do the Sawdust District kind of going up Nebraska, cutting it off through here, down to 9th, and just there's an alley that runs on the west side of South Main Street. This is kind of that residential neighborhood, which we think could be the Sawdust neighborhood, something like that. But it's really residential. We want to try and preserve probably most of that residential in that area for right now. But the Sawdust District itself is oriented towards South Main Street and the river and lakefront. The only change right now that we really see coming out of that plan was the Sawdust District itself, and those visualizations ended at 15th Avenue, but the group had recommended that we move it to the south, remember where the stationery company is, the old brewery that's down here on the west side of the road. There's some commercial opportunities down in that area. So we thought that's the gateway. Once you're coming up 45, you start to get into that South Main area where it starts to become commercial. That's the kind of the gateway entrance. So that's why we extended it down that way. Today we had talks of visioning. So we're gonna compile 3 different vision statements. We'll put them on our website, and we'll let people take a look at them, just like we will with the boundaries. So that's where we are right now. As we meet, we'll fill you in, and when we get a little bit further, we'll have a workshop on the Sawdust District itself. Lastly, Mark and I have been meeting with the towns, a couple of the towns on the comp plan. Yesterday, we met with Black Wolf. Remember, Frank Forsetto was here at our comp plan update meeting, and there was a little bit of concerns, maybe some concerns with some of the land use recommendations. We sat down yesterday with Black Wolf and came up with what we think is a pretty good recommendation for that one troubling area that we always have, right north of Ripple, between Ripple and Waukau. It's a tough land use decision over there. So we think we came up with a good recommendation that we'll talk about at our April 30th meeting that we have a comp plan update. Mark also met separately with the town of Vinland to talk about some of their concerns. So that's all I got right now. And we can adjourn and go to a workshop quick. This shouldn't take that long. We can't start our EZC meeting till 5 o'clock. So if we adjourn now, go through the signage, shouldn't take that long.
All right, anybody?
5 minutes for science, okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.
Well, it's just a workshop, so it
Quick
won't take long.
workshop.
Aye.